think it's like an amazing idea. Like I love the idea of it and everything, and I think you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you.
I'm really happy to see that, like, you know, a lot of things like that are surrounding, like, you know, with Truth and Reconciliation and, like, you know, with the Canada 150 coming around. It's a lot of First Nations people that are taking charge of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I really greatly appreciate it, like, you know, what you guys are doing.
Thank you. That's awesome. That's like reassuring.
Yes.
We didn't want it to be like, we're taking over because we're white saviors and whatever, just like our way to get involved, I guess, in the whole thing.
Yeah, and like that's how, like, so the land that we're on is like Willistic Way land, but like under the Peace and Friendship Treaty, like that was written in 1725, and so it's called the Peace and Friendship. And like my dad always said, like, you know, there's still no peace and we get to find our friends.
Yeah.
And so, like, you know, it speaks on like many levels, and that's what he talked about, like when we had the Peace and Friendship Treaty Days conference here. And you know, it was just really nice to see, and I acknowledge all those people that, because I spoke on a panel and I acknowledged them for all being there, because I was like, you know, you guys just being here and today, you guys are taking part already.
Yeah.
And like, you know, and what you have to do is like to go and inspire others, like, you know, take my message and bring it to yours, and like, you know, keep on sharing, and like that's how it's going to get out. Because like, you know, there was a lot of people, but some of them were governmental people, and like, you know, they're like adults and stuff like that. We didn't have like a high like range of like youth and students there. So like I'm really pleased with this. I don't really know, like I think when he asked me, and I remember Imelda talking about it, she's like, you know, the 150 thing, that she's like, she's like, I just opened a Twitter account, like, you know, she's like, I'm gonna like that, yeah. And she's like, and you know, I'm gonna be like tweeting like, you know, every day or something about like, oh, what Canada 150 means to her. And I was like, man, like, you know, what does it really mean to me? Like, and I talked to my dad too. My dad, he does a lot of like political things too, and as well. And so he's like, you know, me and another one of his colleagues are gonna be traveling around to the communities to talk about what does Canada 150 mean to them. Like, you know, a lot of people see it as a negative thing, right? You like, you know, like, oh, what do we have to celebrate? Like, I hear a lot of people talking about, like, you know, celebrating that our land was taken, and like, you know, and like residential schools and everything. But, you know, I was in a class with Stephen Dutcher, and like he wrote on a board, like there's 3 different columns. And he got us to write down about like 3 to 5 words on a sheet, like, you know, what do you think of First Nations people in Canada? Like, write down the first like 5 things that come to mind. And so a lot of it was like, you know, there's like problems with health, and like, you know, there's a lot of like social problems in our communities, and residential school, and drugs and alcohol, and like, you know, that was a lot of the main point on everybody's paper. So we watched these 2 columns like fill up, and one was barely filled. And so when we looked at it, we noticed that it was a lot of like the positive things that we miss. We tend to focus so much on the negative that we forget about the positive. Mm-hmm. And so like, you know, that's what I'm trying, my message is to like, you know, change that around and see how we perceive things. Because if we're going to continue to be negative, that's the only outcome that we're going to get. Yeah. And so it's and even I was helping with the Breaking Stereotypes campaign too. Mm-hmm. And like, you know, I think it's all about like education. Like I could be angry and I could be yelling at you guys, right? But you'd hear the anger in my voice. Mm-hmm. But if I talk like more passively and assertively, you'll understand what I'm saying, and the message will get across to you easier. Like, so like I think it's a really good job to do like in a positive way, and like how you said, like you didn't want it to be like a white savior thing, but like, you know, that you guys are, you know, you're making that outreach. Like you've come to me and Imelda and Dave, and like I think that's just really important, and like, and how we start to like view ourselves, like, you know, with Canada 150 coming around, like starting to think about like, you know, our resistance as people, that we're still here today, even though like in our struggle, but we're still here. Like, you know, our language they're being revitalized, you know, their ceremonies are coming back into our communities, and like those are the things that we have to view upon rather than like, you know, bash and everything.
Yeah. For sure. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the one thing too. I know when we met with David yesterday, he was saying, you know, we don't celebrate maybe the Canada 150 that everyone else is celebrating, but we celebrate the resilience, and we celebrate that we're still here and we're still going. And Imelda was saying about how people are saying like the language is dying, and she says, I look at it not as if the language is dying, but the speakers of the language, and so we just need to bring back people that are speaking the language. And she says, to me, the language is still fresh and revitalized and keeps going. But yeah, our main goal, like, we just wanted to make sure that when we went into this, we had knowledge and information, and we just weren't kind of like, oh, this will be fun, let's do this. Like, we wanted it to mean something, and we wanted it to be helpful and do our part, I guess. And so kind of, if there's anything you can explain, like what UMB is doing or what it like plans to do, if there's anything like that, I guess, and maybe since it is a project for UMB, if there's anything that we can do throughout the project to make a bigger impact on UNB and not just Fredericton as a whole.
Okay, then this is like, okay, like last year I was gonna transfer universities because I was like, UNB doesn't have anything for me, like nothing in my interest. And I remember talking to like the past president of the student union, and like I remember her talking to me, and she's like, you could be, like you could leave and like be a part of a change somewhere else, or you could stay and help change happen. Like, I could be the one to lead that change here, because UMB is like lacking a lot big time. Like we're really far behind, and I do acknowledge that because when like colonization had happened, the East Coast was the first place, right, and then it moved out. And so a lot of the universities out west, they have really strong Indigenous programs, and they, their programs are so like unbelievably amazing. And I was even just thinking about this like last week. I was like, I think it's time for me to go. Like, but I'm living 4 hours away from home right now. Like, I'm from northern New Brunswick.
Okay.
And so for me, like, I'm a Mi'kmaq, and so I'm kind of like out of my territory. Like, there's 2 different nations in New Brunswick. There's Wolastoqey and Mi'kmaq. And so for me to be here, it's like I'm not really around like my elders, my family. But if I were to go out west, I'll be even further. And so I think like as much as I'm frustrated with UMB and their lack of change and how they're so far behind, I really had to see past that and like how to change the system within.
Yeah.
Like for example, I know the MWC, like the Mi'kmaq Wolastoqey Center, they're kind of really to themselves. And like I hung around a lot at STU, and at STU they had the Wabanaki Center. They have like a beautiful room. Like it's like probably a little bit bigger than this, and like we have our own kitchen, and like and it's just a really nice like place to gather. We're very like communal people, like that's how I've always grown up, and that's where I got my sense of community being up at STU, because we had lunches like every week, and like we always got together, and that's something I would like to see like happen at UMB. Like we do have a bigger population than at STU, and like we don't when I was running for like the Aboriginal rep on like the student union, I didn't know anybody at UMB like that was native, because we never had a place like to join, like to get together and stuff. And I guess it's just the way how courses are being taught too. Like there's Indigenous ways of learning, and there's like there was a beautiful course last year taught by like at CBU by Stephen Augustine, and he was like an amazing man, and like it's just so remarkable what he had did, and like he taught this class, and it was available online, and so places all over the world were able to like watch, and like that was their part. Like even though they couldn't be at Cape Breton University, they were still there like being taught.
Yeah, that's
and
cool.
So I think it's stuff like that, and a lot of people they say like indigenized. It's all about indigenization and everything, but I can't make you guys native, right?
Yeah.
So the thing is to like decolonize ourselves and decolonize the institutes. Like we can't just go and make a new university for us, right? We have to work with what's in the community already, and it's to transform like those institutes. Like I watched this video, it was called Elder in the Making, and there's this residential school that was still standing up in I'm not sure which community it was, but somewhere in Alberta. So this residential school was still standing. It was in like perfect shape, and so what they did was that they needed a community college, and like they didn't have the funds to go and make one. So what they did, they transformed the residential school into like, you know, that place of hurt and trauma into a place of learning and like healing, like, you know.
Yeah.
So that's what we have to do with the institution that still stands today, like, you know. I know that the arts faculty is making like a little step, I guess, by acknowledging the land. That, like, you know, in those classes the professors have written on their syllabuses, like, you know, they acknowledge the land and like the treaty and that was signed with the British Crown and everything, that, you know, this is Wolastoqey land, that it's unceded territory, like we never gave it up. Or it wasn't like, because the treaties out west, they had surrendered their land, but here we had a treaty. This is a special treaty that we had like for peace and friendship, that we could coincide and live together. And so, like, you know, those are the type of things that are like starting to be acknowledged, and like, you know, and you know, change won't happen overnight, but like it's I think it's coming. That's definitely for sure.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. One of the things that when Austin and I went to talk to Anne, and again when we went to the talk, with Kevin, one thing they both said is the we are all treaty people. About the whole, you know, even if you don't have Indigenous heritage, like you still have a part to play, you're still involved, there's still things you can do because we are all treaty people. And so what would you like to see for UMB, like the students here, and how would you like to almost close the gap, I guess, that people who aren't Indigenous, they don't feel like they really have a role to play, and they're not really involved, and they're like, I'm not involved, there's nothing I can do. Kind of what would you like to see those students know? Like, what would you like them to know? What would you like them to be doing, I guess, to get involved and play their part?
I think just like educating one another is like a really big thing. Like, you know, many times when you think of an Indigenous person, there's a lot of stereotypes that come into play, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, you get like the lazy drunk, like all these uneducated type of stereotypes that have been like, you know, that have been brainwashed in within Canadian society for so long. But, you know, I'm sitting here, I'm just a regular person as well, and that's the thing is, and we've lost that humanity, that we're all people, that we all have feelings, that we all, you know, that we all live for the same things, that we all need clean air, that we all need clean water, and like, you know, that's a big thing when it comes to environmental issues. Like, people think that Native people have this gene that, like, you know, that makes us so like protective of like the environment, but it's not true. Like, maybe we do have a special connection, and I think it's just through our beliefs and our morals and our values that make us so connected with like Mother Earth. And but what we're doing is not for ourselves either. Like, you know, I think it's just to have that general understanding of like, you know, you need clean air to breathe, and you need clean water, and you need good food, like, you know, and it's just to understand that between each other, like, you know, and stop fighting, like, and I think it's like, you know, I remember somebody saying like, oh, it'd be nice to have like a totem pole on campus, and like, it's not our culture at all, and it kind of adds to like the stereotype, I guess, like, you know. And we're taken from another person's culture as well, like, you know, that's more of a West Coast thing. And like, it kind of just like, oh, that must be for the natives, right, if you're like to walk past it. But you don't see me dressed up in like my regalia every day, or like, you know, you don't see me with feathers in my hair or anything, like, you know, we're still regular people. And I think it's just to have that acknowledgement that we're all human, and like, you know, that we could coincide together and to work together, and you know, just to have that respect for one another.
Yeah. Okay. Is there anything?
I don't know if you'd have a response, because you said, you know, you thought about like what Canada 150 means to you. Do you have anything to say, kind of what?
I think it's just like when I was like talking about like, you know, changing that negative to a positive, and because I'm still trying to figure out what Canada 150 means to me, like, you know, what is my family gonna do? How are we gonna like celebrate it, or what's an alternate that we're gonna be doing as of that day, like, you know, and how to like, I don't know. I think it's just for me to help educate other people as well, like, you know, I can't be angry at anybody else because if they have that lack of knowledge or like, you know, that ignorance or anything, but it's a part of my job to help educate, and so to see what I can do to, you know, really figure out what Canada 150 means to me, because I'm still in like, you know, the midst of trying.
Yeah,
No,
that makes sense. Cool. Okay then, I guess I was gonna ask you, so like with our project and with our campaign, were there any suggestions or advice or tips or things you'd like to see us do specifically with this project, that maybe words of wisdom, I suppose, anything really?
I don't really know. Like, I think you guys are on a good path right now,
Mm-hmm.
and I really like the ideas that you guys have put out and what you're gonna do, and I don't really know what else. Like,
Okay.
you know, just this, when was it, Monday, I was a part of at STU, we did like the 94 calls to action.
Yeah.
And that was really nice, and how that went. Like, we had all, like, it was a mix of like social work students and Indigenous and non-Indigenous students, and we all said the calls to action. Like, we had each call to say.
Yeah, she was talking about
And
that
so
yesterday.
that was really nice, and like, you know, people were just thanking us so much, because then now they don't have a reason to say, I don't know what the calls to action are, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the big thing that the university should acknowledge, and like, you know, is that should start implementing in the campus as well. And I think it would show a lot of like that friendship between, you know, both the non-Indigenous and Indigenous students, and just to have that knowledge and to educate one another. I think that's like the big thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's awesome. I was just thinking when you were talking about that too, we have like posters already done up, but it would be cool if we took like the 94 calls to action and put them on little pieces of paper with like our logo and stuff, and put them up around too. Do you think that would be?
Yeah, I think that would be something too. Like, I even know just doing the Breaking Stereotypes campaign, like in the sub, like, you know, having all those posters, like, they did a really good job. And they kind of did like a viewing of they did a viewing of I guess Herbert and like other people. They made a video to it, I guess. And so they did a viewing, and they had a panel as well. And like, I think that would be like a cool idea too, like to get people involved. Like, you know, it would be on social media and like, you know, around campus, and then to also have something that's interactive, like, you know, like just trying to, like, you guys are at the Renaissance College, right?
Yeah.
And so if you could get like your classes to come or something, and then have like some other people to come in and like talk about what it means to them, and just to, you know, I think it's different to have things online and then to actually see something in person. Yeah. I think a lot of people take more away from it, because, like, you know, our social media, we just scroll through everything all day, right? Yeah. You don't really pay attention. And I think if it were to have things, and I think it's to make things like mandatory, right? Like, because like I remember being something was like with the class, and like it wasn't mandatory, and not a lot of people showed up, and it was like really important, and like, you know, and it should be mandatory. Like, it's, and that's what's in the calls to action as well, like to have like the like different like there's one call to action that talks about like public servants and like law and every, like, a bunch of like teachers to be educated upon like Indigenous people and like the land that they're on, and it should be mandatory, like, and so that's, I think that's just like a little idea maybe.